All of Britain was stunned. The whole world held its breath. On a gloomy afternoon at Kensington Palace, King Charles III and Prince William unexpectedly appeared before the global media to deliver earth-shattering news, heartbreaking announcement concerning Catherine, Princess of Wales. Though their words had been carefully prepared, their voices still trembled with emotion. Behind William's reddened eyes lay a story of loss, hope, and a fragile future that demanded immense strength from the woman long regarded as the heart of the British royal family. What transformed Catherine Middleton, a commoner, a devoted wife, and a gentle mother into the living symbol of a monarchy caught between tradition and the modern age? How had she remained steadfast under the crushing weight of media scrutiny, royal expectations, and internal fractures? And now, as the nation seeks something to believe in, Catherine once again stands as an irreplaceable anchor, even while facing the darkest challenge of her life. This announcement was not merely an update on a princess's health. It marked a historical turning point, a bell tolling the beginning of a new chapter for the British monarchy, one where compassion, understanding, and a spirit of service will be guided by Catherine and William. A new era has begun, and at its heart is a woman fighting in silence. After the dazzling and solemn Trooping the Color Parade, as the gates of Buckingham Palace closed behind the last cavalry troops, a completely different atmosphere enveloped the West Gallery of the palace. The international media from CNN and Sky News to NHK had already taken their places. Distinguished guests from the government, diplomatic corps, and familiar faces from the royal circle filled the luxurious space, heavy with anticipation. Everyone knew something momentous was about to be announced. And this time, it wasn't a formal ceremony or a political decision. It was a moment laden with emotion, one that could forever alter the public's perception of the British royal family. When King Charles III stepped onto the podium, he did not carry the usual regal air of a monarch. Instead, he appeared as a father, a grandfather, and above all, a man overwhelmed by deep emotion. "Today, I'm not here to speak about the Princess of Wales," he began, "but rather about Catherine, the woman our family knows, loves, and deeply respects." His voice was warm, slightly hoarse with emotion. Even the stage lights couldn't hide the tears welling in his eyes. Charles recounted the difficult months Catherine had endured since her cancer diagnosis. Not a single complaint, not a moment of weakness shown to the public. Only calm, resilience, and an iron spirit that commanded the admiration of all who witnessed it. He spoke of Catherine quietly visiting children's hospitals despite her fragile health, of private meetings with medical experts to improve patient care. "She is not only a symbol of courage," Charles said, "but the embodiment of modern compassion, a virtue the royal family must carry into this new era." Immediately afterward, Prince William stepped forward, with no notes and no script, only his heart. He stood silently before the microphone, took a deep breath, and began to speak, his voice hoarse but steady. "Catherine is the light of my life," William said. "Not only my wife and the mother of our children, but my most loyal companion, the one who reminds me what we're truly living for." He shared a private moment from the hospital when Catherine held his hand late at night and said, "Stay strong for the children and for England." No one in the hall could remain composed. A tear rolled down the cheek of Countess Sophie. Zara Phillips gripped her husband's hand. Camilla, in a corner of the room, wore an unusually solemn expression. William continued, speaking of all the things Catherine had done behind the scenes. The handwritten letters she sent to children battling cancer. The quiet conversations she had with single mothers fighting their own health battles. "Catherine understands pain," he said, "and that's precisely why she gives hope." A long round of applause followed, not out of formality, but gratitude rising like a wave through the chamber. Amid the flashing lights of cameras and a flood of headlines spreading across the globe, one realization dawned on the world: the British royal family was no longer a rigid symbol of old world power. They were changing. And at the heart of that change was a woman named Catherine. The atmosphere in the room was no longer tense. It had become warm, compassionate, and profoundly human. Charles placed a hand on William's shoulder, his gaze fixed on a family photograph projected on the screen behind him. In it, Catherine beamed with joy, her arms wrapped around George and Charlotte, while little Louis playfully hid behind her back. "This is the future," Charles said, "and it is guided by love, compassion, and a quiet courage that Catherine has taught all of us." All of Britain had once held its breath when a short video of Catherine, Princess of Wales, aired on national television in early 2020. With a voice trembling but filled with bravery, Catherine confirmed she was battling cancer. The news dropped like a bombshell, leaving not just the royal family, but millions of Britons stunned. Because this woman was not only the wife of the heir to the throne, but also a symbol of gentleness, resilience, and hope in a monarchy increasingly struggling to maintain its bond with the people. It had all begun with what seemed like a routine abdominal surgery, but then came the post-operative test results, completely unexpected. From that moment on, in silence, Catherine began her preventative chemotherapy journey, fighting while shielding her 3 young children from nameless fears. Throughout that time, not a single word of complaint reached the public. Only when she was ready, with all the grace and strength she possessed, did Catherine choose to appear not in a grand ceremony, but in a simple video, to share the truth. And then, just a few months later, Catherine reappeared once again, this time in Norfolk, in a serene setting where nature and family came together. She announced that she had completed her chemotherapy. It was not just a medical triumph, it was a victory of courage, of spirit over fate, and of a woman who never surrendered in the face of adversity. King Charles III, who was undergoing his own cancer journey, could not hide his emotion. He said that Catherine had done something very few within palace walls could achieve. She touched the hearts of the public with truth and kindness. And in a rare, deeply symbolic joint statement, he and Prince William affirmed this was not merely a new chapter in Catherine's life, but the beginning of a new era of compassion for the British royal family. An era led not by cold protocol or authority, but by love, resilience, and the kindness of a mother, a wife, and a new symbol of the kingdom, Catherine. In early 2025, as Britain was still reeling from months of anxious speculation about the Princess of Wales's health, Catherine made a sudden and powerful return to the very place where she had once faced her darkest hours, the Royal Marsden Hospital. This was not a typical royal visit. It was a moment charged with emotion, a wordless declaration of life, courage, and the extraordinary strength of the woman now holding the heart of an entire monarchy. Dressed in an elegant cream coat, her expression gentle but her gaze unshakable, Catherine walked into the hospital no longer as a patient, but as a living symbol of hope. She listened intently to the stories of patients battling illness, offering not just sympathy but a profound understanding shaped by her own experience. Medical staff were visibly moved as they watched Catherine gently hold the hand of a young mother, smile at a child undergoing chemotherapy. Everyone there recognized that this was no longer a princess behind palace walls, but a woman who had walked through hell and returned to bring light to those still trapped in the darkness. Catherine didn't stop there. She resumed her charitable work, something she had never abandoned, even while enduring intense pain. Notably, she devoted more time to the Royal Foundation Center for Early Childhood, where she had long poured her heart into changing public awareness about the importance of mental health in early years. But this time, every word she spoke, every activity she took part in, carried a deeper resonance because the public now knew she was inspiring not just through knowledge or titles, but through the life and death battle she had just survived. Catherine's return immediately sent shockwaves through the international media. Front pages across the world featured her radiant figure in the early spring sunlight, her gentle yet determined smile at the Trooping the Color event becoming a viral symbol on social media. People everywhere began calling her the Torch of Hope, an image that couldn't have been more fitting to describe the way she reignited faith during the darkest days of the British monarchy. They no longer admired her simply for her beauty or royal elegance, but now deeply respected the quiet resilience and unyielding perseverance of a woman who refused to surrender to fate. In a rare speech, Prince William spoke about his wife's journey back. He did not hesitate to declare that Catherine's return was not out of duty, but out of love, love for her children, for those vulnerable who needed someone to lean on, and for Britain, the country she had chosen to dedicate her life to. William grew emotional, recounting the nights she stayed awake in pain, yet still reminded the nurses to bring coloring books for the young patients. He said Catherine doesn't need to try to become a symbol. She just needs to be herself, and that's enough to change everything. Her presence, from major public events to private meetings with charitable organizations, gradually reshaped the public image of the royal family. No longer seen as a closed institution defined by distant rituals, it began to be viewed as a body capable of empathy, of walking beside suffering, and of healing through compassion. Catherine, the woman once dismissed as common, Kate was now leading a quiet but powerful revolution at the heart of the monarchy. And it was at that very moment that people began to realize the painful announcement about Catherine's health was not the end of a peaceful chapter, but rather the marker of a new beginning. A beginning where the heart of the monarchy no longer resided in a cold throne, but in the warm smile of a woman who dared to live, to hurt, and to sacrifice. Catherine didn't return simply to fulfill a role. She returned to redefine the meaning of power through gentleness. And that, above all, is what made the world unable to look away from her. As Britain was still deeply moved by the sight of Princess Catherine re-emerging with bright eyes and a soft smile after months of battling illness, another realization quietly settled into the hearts of the public: the unconditional love of Prince William for his wife. A love without fanfare, without grand declarations, yet strong enough to withstand public storms and the cold rules of royalty. No one could forget William's expression when Catherine first reappeared in public. He didn't need to say a word. A single glance, a faint smile, was enough for the entire nation to understand this was a man who had once feared losing the most important woman in his life. And now that she had returned, whether for a brief morning at Royal Marsden Hospital or just a few radiant minutes on the Buckingham Palace balcony for William, it was nothing short of a miracle. Throughout Catherine's battle with cancer, William quietly stepped back. He didn't give long statements or take the media spotlight. He did only one thing: he stayed by her side, not leaving for a moment. During chemotherapy, William sat next to her, held her hand through nausea and exhaustion. When she was silent from fatigue, he too remained silent, but it was a silence full of protection from a man who had vowed to shield her no matter what. Many have asked, how could William, who grew up in a royal family scarred by fractures and marital tragedies, hold on to such unwavering love? The answer lies in the very losses he has endured. William lost his mother at the age of 15. He witnessed Princess Diana in tears, alone, betrayed within the very palace where she should have been most cherished. And because he had seen that pain, William swore he would never let the woman he loved walk the same dark path as his mother. Catherine is not just a wife, she is a soulmate, a refuge, the one who makes William a complete man. In private conversations with close friends, William once said, "I could lose the throne, lose my title, but I cannot lose her." A statement that might make royal advisors frown, but one powerful enough to move millions of hearts. It is that very love that has made William always stand between Catherine and the scrutinizing world. When news of her illness was ruthlessly exploited in the press, William personally called several major editors to demand an immediate halt to the hunt for the princess. He also declined all royal tours during the period of her treatment, despite pressure from the royal family and the government. For William, no event was more important than being by Catherine's side. No reception grander than the moment he saw his wife muster a smile after a grueling round of chemotherapy. And when Catherine decided to return to public duties, William was the only person she consulted and sought advice from. He didn't discourage her, nor did he urge her on. William simply asked, "Are you sure you're ready?" And when Catherine nodded, William held her hand and gently said, "Then I'll go with you." No bodyguard, no press advisor could do what he did. Walk beside her with love, with deep admiration for the woman who had sacrificed herself entirely for her family. That companionship wasn't confined to hospitals or palaces, but evident in the smallest of moments. A gentle tuck of her hair when the wind blew it during a parade, a proud look as she spoke at a children's forum, a hand placed lightly on her back at crowded events, as if always ready to support her if she faltered. Those small gestures have become symbols of a great love, a love between two people who chose each other not out of duty, but out of belief. In a short speech at the end of June, William told reporters, "Catherine is my heart, and she is also the heart of England." That sentence quickly spread across social media, touching millions, because it wasn't just the words of a future king, it was the simplest truth from a husband. William and Catherine's love, through all the trials, is no longer a fairy tale. It has become a symbol of strength, of conscious choice in a world full of turmoil. Many once doubted could love truly exist within a palace full of formality and pressure. William and Catherine have answered through their very lives. And now that I read, as Catherine returns not only as a wife or a mother, but as a compassionate leader, the love William has for her becomes an indispensable part of the monarchy's new journey. In the hearts of millions, and they see not only a resilient princess or a devoted future king, they see a couple who have held hands through the darkness and now step into the light stronger, more united, and more inspiring than ever. In an era where the British royal family constantly faces crises of trust, public indifference, and endless internal turmoil, Catherine has quietly emerged as a symbol of salvation. Not loud, not flashy, she does not need rehearsed bows or glamorous gowns to make an impact. Instead, Catherine has chosen a quiet but steady path, reforming from the roots, starting with children, the future generation of the nation. The Center for Early Childhood, an initiative under the Royal Foundation led by her, is not merely a charitable project. It is a powerful declaration: if the monarchy is to be saved, it must begin by healing the wounds within society. Catherine does not need television cameras to record the moment she donates her hair to children with cancer. She issues no press release when she quietly helps single mothers struggling with addiction and domestic violence. Because to her, compassion is not something to display, it is a way of life. And that is what sets Catherine apart. No one demanded she become the new Diana, yet it was the public who gave her that title with all the love, hope, and faith that once seemed shattered by the death of the Princess of Wales. William understands that value. To him, Catherine is not only his life partner, the mother of his children, but also the bridge between tradition and modernity, between the people and the throne. He once said, "Without her, I'm not sure I could go on." And indeed, Catherine has not only accompanied William on every tour and royal engagement, but has also helped him keep his heart intact in a family riddled with pressure and division. Even Charles, who once doubted Catherine's ability to be the wife of a future king, has now admitted she is the key to maintaining public trust in the monarchy. In a time when the royal family is increasingly under the microscope, when every gesture and glance can be dissected and distorted, Catherine has maintained a remarkable composure, a presence that is both approachable and dignified. She does not overshadow Diana, but builds an entirely different image, modern, grounded, and deeply humane. The initiatives Catherine has launched are quietly spreading. Experts predict that by 2027, the emotional education, psychological development, and parental support programs she champions will not only be present in the UK, but also expand to Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, members of the Commonwealth. With that, Catherine is not just the princess of the United Kingdom. She is reshaping the global image of royalty, one that listens, one that heals, and one that is humble. It is no coincidence that the people call her the heart of the royal family. In an era where titles, insignias, and ranks no longer carry enough weight to uphold the monarchy's prestige, Catherine is redefining power. It is not command, but influence built on trust. And if one day George ascends the throne and Britain has a kind, steadfast, and deeply empathetic king, it will have started from the evenings Catherine sat beside her son, teaching him to listen, not to command. She does not change the royal family by tearing it down, but by rebuilding it from within. And in the storm that the monarchy is struggling to endure, Catherine is the one holding the compass. No calls for reform, no political preaching. She does only one thing: lives kindly. Yet that very thing is the strongest form of soft power, leading an entire monarchy into a new era where compassion replaces authority and empathy replaces prejudice. Catherine's emotional return is not only the story of a courageous woman overcoming illness, but also a wake-up call to a royal family hesitating at the edge of division. While King Charles III struggles to hold onto the throne amidst health storms and public pressure, his gaze, though dimmed with age, still lights up whenever Catherine is mentioned. Deep down, he understands the future of the British monarchy no longer lies in power or ceremonial grandeur, but in the heart and its connection with the people. And Catherine is the bridge between a golden past and a hopeful future. Catherine's kindness and compassion are exactly what make her the spiritual heir that Charles has always longed for. It is no coincidence that the king once confided in a private conversation, "When I am gone, let Catherine be the voice of the monarchy." A statement that left Camilla speechless and made not a few within the royal household feel uneasy. Because honoring Catherine as a new symbol also means casting a shadow over many names that once outshone her, including Queen Camilla. William, throughout his wife's battle with illness, showed a love that was powerful and unwavering. Every day he was at the hospital, whispering old stories into Catherine's ear, singing to her the song they once shared at their wedding. That love needed no grand words, yet made all of Britain choke up when their eyes met during Catherine's first public appearance. They were no longer prince and princess. They were two people truly in love, who dared to walk through a life and death ordeal to once again affirm the strength of love and loyalty. Catherine's return did not come with fanfare. She chose to appear during a visit to a children's hospital, where young cancer patients were fighting pain hour by hour. It was a profoundly symbolic choice, because she understood to lead a monarchy in the 21st century, one does not need to wave from a palace balcony, but must bow low, listen, and touch the hearts of the people. The international press described the event as the rebirth of the royal family, when the crowd no longer clapped for the crown, but for kindness. King Charles, watching every step Catherine took, could not hide his pride. In a private meeting, he called William and Catherine to his side, placed his hand on their shoulders, and said, "Continue where I have left off, but do not go as a king, go as a human being." That guidance was like a proclamation, an acknowledgement that his era is closing, and the era of compassion, the era of Catherine, is beginning. However, not everyone is ready to accept this change so easily. There are still eyes within the royal family filled with doubt. There are conversations behind closed doors asking, is Catherine strong enough to bear the trust of an entire monarchy? Can compassion protect the throne in a world full of controversy and politics? Those questions are real. And Catherine, with remarkable calmness, did not deny them, but faced them. "I don't have all the answers," she once said, "but I believe we cannot build a kingdom on fear. We can only build it on love." Meanwhile, William increasingly shows that he is no longer just a loving husband, but a man willing to place his heart on the political chessboard. He has actively called for reforming royal operations, cutting back on excessive ceremonies, and expanding charitable programs focused on youth. He understands that to win the people's trust, the royal family cannot forever stand atop power without touching the ground. Yet at this very point, the challenge becomes clearer than ever. The royal family now stands between two generations, one of deep-rooted tradition and the other of constant change. How do you preserve internal unity without losing public support? How do you avoid falling into the trap of formality while forgetting the essence? And how can the steps taken by Catherine and William stay on course amidst immense pressure from both inside and outside the palace? The answer is not yet clear, but one thing is certain with Catherine by his side. William is no longer alone. With Charles's vision, the royal family is no longer lost. And with the love, resilience, and spirit of public service of the new generation, Britain is standing at the edge of a beginning where trust no longer comes from the crown, but from hearts that truly know how to love. Amid the resounding applause across Britain, the emotional declaration from King Charles and Prince William is not merely a tribute to a woman who has triumphed over death. It is the opening of a new chapter for the British royal family, a chapter where compassion replaces distance, where sincerity transcends the cold rituals that have defined royal power for centuries. Catherine, the woman who once quietly stood behind the spotlight, now stands at the center not because of title or throne, but because of the courageous heart and unconditional love she gives to her family, to the people, and to the very mission of the monarchy. The battle against cancer is not only a physical one, but a journey that transforms pain into hope. And Catherine has returned not as a survivor, but as a warrior carrying within her the flame of new life. The simplicity in every glance, every gesture of hers, is now the most powerful weapon inspiring the entire nation to believe in a different kind of monarchy. A monarchy that is not distant, not prideful, but warm, close, and deeply humane. But the question still remains, how will Catherine continue to shape a royal family long divided by prejudice, power, and a series of ongoing crises? Will she become a symbol like Princess Diana once was, an irreplaceable icon in the hearts of millions? What do you think? Is Catherine truly the future of the British royal family? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to follow us so you won't miss a single moment in the inspiring journey of the woman who is rewriting royal history with her courage and her hearts.